The sound of hurried footsteps echoed through the marble halls of the grand estate, followed by the whisper of silk and the rustle of uniforms. The mansion was alive with people, maids, chefs, assistants, all moving with precision. Yet, amidst the quiet chaos of preparation, there was something strikingly wrong. At the edge of the massive ballroom, where laughter and music filled the air, a small girl sat alone, her tiny hands twisting the hem of her pale pink dress. Her eyes were distant, her world far away from the glittering chandeliers above her. And though she sat in plain sight, no one dared to approach her. Everyone saw her, and yet, no one really saw her. It was the moment the new maid walked in, an ordinary young woman with trembling hands and a heart full of nerves, that everything began to change. Lena never imagined she'd end up working for the infamous billionaire, Alexander Wright. The man was known for being cold, calculating, and as untouchable as the empire he built. She had taken the job out of desperation, her family needed the money, and this was her last chance to keep her younger brother in school. So she said yes to the position of live-in maid at the Wright mansion, even though the other staff whispered warnings behind her back. The CEO's house isn't like any other place, they said. And his daughter, well, she's different. From the moment Lena arrived, she felt the heaviness in the air. Everything gleamed, yet the house felt lifeless. The staff spoke in hushed tones, careful with every word. She learned quickly that Mr. Wright's 8-year-old daughter, Emma, was never to be disturbed. Don't try to talk to her, the head maid had warned. She doesn't respond to people. It upsets her. Just do your work and keep your distance. Lena nodded, though her heart ached a little. She had seen Emma once from afar, sitting under a tree in the garden, watching the wind move through the leaves with an intensity that made the world seem slower around her. There was a delicate beauty in the way she existed quietly, almost as if she was part of another world entirely. Days passed. The mansion was routine, cleaning, serving, silence. Until one evening, the Wrights held a company celebration. The ballroom glittered with elegance, champagne flowed, laughter filled the air, and in the midst of it all, Emma sat by herself again. Her small feet swung above the ground as she watched the guests dance, her eyes flickering not with envy, but with wonder, as though she was studying the rhythm of their movements like a secret code she couldn't quite unlock. Lena, busy carrying a tray of desserts, noticed how every adult in the room avoided her. When Emma's soft humming grew louder, the staff exchanged worried glances. One whispered, "Don't go near her. The CEO hates when anyone bothers the girl." But something inside Lena rebelled. Maybe it was the memory of her own brother, who struggled with words and crowds just the same. Maybe it was because loneliness had a face she recognized. As the music swelled, she set her tray down, took a quiet breath, and walked toward Emma. The room seemed to hold its breath. Lena crouched down so their eyes met. Emma didn't look away, though her gaze was distant, lost in the pattern of Lena's earrings. "Hi," Lena whispered. "I'm Lena. Do you like the music?" Emma didn't answer. Her fingers tapped the rhythm on her dress. Without a second thought, Lena stood, extended her hand, and smiled softly. "Would you dance with me?" For a long, fragile moment, nothing happened. The crowd continued to dance around them, but all Lena could hear was the sound of her own heartbeat. Then, slowly, Emma's tiny hand reached out and touched hers. The room fell silent. Lena guided her gently, one step, then another, her movements soft and patient. Emma hesitated, then followed, her eyes lighting up just slightly as the music wrapped around them both. Her little feet stumbled, but Lena laughed, a sound so warm and real that it seemed to melt the tension in the air. And for the first time, the child smiled. Across the room, Alexander Wright froze mid-conversation. His glass slipped slightly in his hand as he watched his daughter who hadn't spoken or made eye contact in years, twirling softly in the middle of the dance floor with a maid he didn't even remember hiring. After that night, everything shifted. Lena became more than a maid, she became Emma's shadow, her quiet companion. Each morning, she'd hum soft tunes as she cleaned near Emma's playroom, waiting for the little girl's curious glances. Slowly, the wall between them began to crumble. Emma started leaving her toys near Lena's cleaning cart, as if testing her presence. One day, Lena found a crayon drawing on her bed, a stick figure holding hands with another, under a big yellow sun. The caption in uneven letters read, "Dance." But not everyone approved, the head maid warned her again. "Mr. Wright doesn't like anyone getting close to the girl. He thinks it's better that way." Lena frowned. Better for who? Her question hung unanswered. When Alexander finally confronted her, his tone was icy. "You're paid to clean, not play games." "She's not a game, sir," Lena said quietly. "She's your daughter." The words stunned him. No one ever spoke to him like that, but later that night, he stood by Emma's door, unseen, listening. He heard the faint sound of laughter, his daughter's laughter, for the first time since his wife's death. It broke something in him, something he'd buried under work and grief. Days turned into weeks. Lena and Emma built a silent language of gestures, songs, and small victories. Emma began responding to her name, holding hands, even humming with Lena. The staff started to soften, noticing how light seemed to return to the mansion's air. Then one afternoon, Emma found her father sitting alone in his office. She approached quietly, clutching her toy bear, and tugged his sleeve. Alexander looked down, startled. "Emma?" She didn't speak. Instead, she pointed to the living room where Lena was dusting and whispered, with the smallest, trembling voice, "Dance with me." Time stopped, tears filled his eyes before he even realized he was crying. He stood, hesitantly taking her hand, and followed her to the room where Lena waited, eyes wide in disbelief. And as the music from the radio filled the quiet house, father and daughter danced together, awkward, clumsy, but filled with a love that had finally found its way back. Lena watched from the side, her heart full. It wasn't about fixing Emma or teaching her to be someone else, it was about helping her be seen, finally, for who she was. The mansion that once echoed with silence now carried laughter and life once again. And in that moment, everyone who once ignored the little girl realized that sometimes, the smallest act of kindness, a hand held out in a room full of indifference, can change everything, because sometimes, it just takes one person brave enough to say, "Dance with me."